بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها أستاذ، اعرف تلاميذك، وليس المقصود معرفة اسم كل طالب، بل يجب أن تعلم يا أستاذ أن هناك فروق فردية بين المتعلمين، فيجب عليك أن تأخذ خصوصيات كل طالب بعين الاعتبار ومساعدة كل طالب على قدرته. هدفك مساعدة طالب على نمو من جميع جوانب الروحية والعقلية ونفسية والعاطفية والجسمية. We need to recognize that our students have different backgrounds and they have different abilities. We have some students that may have a lower or be from a lower socioeconomic background, which may impact their learning. There are students that are, as I mentioned, have different abilities. Some are quick learners, some are slow learners. We shouldn't expect everyone to learn at the same pace and then get angry with them if they're not. And oftentimes we as teachers need to stop and reflect and analyze our methodologies and change our methodologies to suit the student. If we're going too fast, for example, then we need to slow down. If we are using one strategy and that particular strategy is not working, then we need to find another strategy. اعلم يا أستاذ أن ممكن تلميذ غير ناطق باللغة العربية ففي مشقة، والحمد لله أجره على قدر مشقته. Maybe Arabic is not their first language. So this should be taken into account as well. And as I say that, I think about a personal experience that I've encountered with a Quran teacher, a recent personal experience, in which my Quran teacher, who's a native speaker of Arabic, becomes angry with me if I make a mistake. And before I could finish the ayah, she's shouting, no. It's not intentional. Okay, I'm not a native speaker of Arabic. And of course, even if I was a native speaker of Arabic, you have native speakers who make mistakes when they're reciting Quran. It's not intentional. As humans, we make mistakes. So the teacher getting angry at you is not going to help correct the mistake. So it's important for the teacher to understand that and to be patient with the student, because all it does is it turns you away from wanting to learn. And it got to the point where I feel like I don't want to sit with this teacher. If you're going to be shouting, it's not that I'm not trying. I'm putting forth my best effort. Be patient with me. أفهم يا أستاذ أنا ممكن بسبب كثرة المشاكل في البيت تلميذك لا يستطيع أن يركز جيدا فلا تفكر أنه كسلان. أبحث دائما عن السبب الذي يدعو الطالب لإثارة المشاكل وقم بإزالته إن أمكن. ويجب الحوار، يجب أن تجلس وتتحدث مع هذا الطالب. We should try to understand our students and recognize that just because they're not learning something, it doesn't mean they're lazy. And we should never call our students names. You have sometimes teachers that call their students lazy, or they assume, they ask them, did you do your homework? And once again, I had this experience with the Quran teacher asking me, did I do what she had told me to do each time if I make a mistake? Of course I did. Okay, I'm not a child. I'm a grown woman. I'm paying for this particular service. I want to learn Quran, not for the pleasure of the teacher, but for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, I'm going to do it. Mistakes don't occur simply because someone is lazy or simply because someone didn't do their homework. And your student, or your child, there could be other factors which could cause them to not be able to grasp. Perhaps it's your teaching methodology. هل كل الصحابة كان قوي الحفظ؟ ومن الطبيعة الإنسان النسيان، فلا تغضب إذا ينسى آية. غضب المعلم في فصل على تلاميذه يجعل الفصل في جو من الخوف ورهبة، فليس من الممكن أن يتعلم التلميذ شيئا. There's no room for getting angry. Okay? Once again, as I said, this will only create a negative atmosphere, and it will turn the child away. It will also interfere with the ability to learn. In order to learn properly, the environment must be a peaceful environment. And we should take a moment to reflect on an ayah from Surah Ali Imran, verse 159, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. And by the mercy of Allah, you dealt with them gently. And had you been severe and harsh-hearted, they would have broken away from you. As Muslims, we should be gentle. We should not be harsh when we're giving da'wah. We should not be harsh when we're dealing with our students. We should make our students feel welcomed, and we should make them feel loved. And we should try to reward more than we punish, whether we're dealing with our own children or whether we're dealing with students. Studies show that reward is more effective than punishment. إعطاء هدية من أهم الوسائل لتحفيز الطلاب. So giving gifts, for example, will help motivate the child. What I used to do with my students, I worked in public school as a reading specialist and also as an ESL teacher. I always had a gift bag. لما كنت مدرس في مدرسة حكومة دائما كان عندي هدية وأعطي الطلاب هدية مرة واحد في الأسبوع. I had a ticket system, and I would give students a ticket every day. If I taught one particular period, I was also a homeroom teacher at one point in public school too. If I was only teaching for one particular period, I would give everyone a little red, one of those little red movie tickets, have them write their name on it, and then at the end of the period, I would collect that ticket and I would put it into an envelope. During the period also, I would give them tickets if they did well in class, if they participated, they answered questions, so they had an opportunity to accumulate a number of tickets. And at the end of the week, I would do a drawing. And sometimes I would pick 3 names. It would just depend. And they got a chance to pick from the gift bag. And in the gift bag, I had candy and I had gifts, all kinds of things that the students liked. And they were so excited. That method alone was enough to keep my students straight. I never really had discipline problems in my classroom, and that's the methodology that I used for a number of years. With older students, when I taught in the Emirates, I used a different system because they were older. I used a chart, and even though we were not actually using grades with these students because we were trying to prepare them for the IELTS exam, I still used a system whereby I made a chart, and I wrote each student's name, and I put a letter next to their name, A, B, C, D, and these are students between the ages 18 and 20. And that made a big difference. If they were not good, if they talked, because they had a very bad habit of talking, I would give them a C. or D. Depends on how many times I talked and I went over this with them, and they took it so seriously. No one wanted to see anything besides an A or a B next to their name. So this was one way to control them. I didn't have to shout. I didn't have to call them kalb or donkey or anything. Just using this system helped control my students. And once again, with the ticket system, if the student misbehaved, then they would lose their ticket. And I would actually tear it up. And that was painful for them to see their ticket, even if it was just one ticket. If I tore it up and put it in the trash, that was painful. And I don't think that's abusive, but it was effective in helping control the negative behavior. But the important thing, أهم الشيء أن إعطاء هدية أحسن من العقاب. And ممكن نعطيهم هدية مرة واحد في الأسبوع. And I'm sorry, I haven't been translating everything. My Arabic is not that good. All right, so maybe we can have a pizza party. You can have a pizza party once a month. ممكن عندكم حفلة مع بيتزا مرة واحد في الشهر. And praise is very important. الثناء في الصف أمر مهم جدا لأنه يبنى علاقة وثيقة بين الطالب والمدرس، وتصويرات الطالب تحتاج المديح. يحتاج الطفل إلى كثير من الحب والثناء لينمو نموا سليما. It's very important for us to praise. If we want our children to grow, if we want them to have proper emotional support, then we need to constantly praise our students. Say ahsanti, or mumtaz, or masha'Allah. Okay, you're making progress. Even if they're not doing well, you say, masha'Allah, I see you're really trying. إذا الطالب ضعيف ممكن أنت تقول ما شاء الله أنت تجتهد. Okay, and still you're praising that student. All right, and lastly, with regard to rewards, is competitions. مسابقات. ممكن عندكم مسابقات مرة واحد في الأسبوع. وأنا لما أدرس قرآن ولست حافظة كتاب الله ولكن اجتهد، وفي أمريكا ما عندنا ناس كثير يعني حافظوا القرآن بامتياز، عندنا الحمد لله. فأنا أحاول أن أدرس كتاب الله، لأن مفروض أن ندرس لو عندنا آية. فلما أدرس كتاب الله أنا أدرس المفردات، ألفاظ الكتاب الله سبحانه وتعالى لكي يفهموا كتاب الله. فعندنا مسابقات مرة واحدة مع هذه المفردات، والطلاب ما شاء الله مبسوطين دائما. حتى إذا كان عندي طالبة مريضة فأمها قالت لها يجب أن تبقي في البيت، بكت لأن لم تستطيع أن تحضر المسجد لكي تدرس. الحمد لله هذا من الله سبحانه وتعالى. بس أنا أشارك معكم عشان أخبركم بأن يجب علينا أن ننشأ جو كويس. عندنا مسابقات وثناء، وهذا كتاب الله سبحانه وتعالى، ويجب الطالب أن يفهم كتاب الله سبحانه وتعالى. وإن شاء الله نتكلم قليلا عن ماذا ندرس لما ندرس كتاب الله سبحانه وتعالى. So I would do competitions once a week with my students, whether I was teaching whether I was working as a reading specialist, whether I was teaching Islamic studies or what have you. And I mentioned that I do teach Quran. I'm not anywhere as near a hafiz or perfect. I'm trying to learn, struggling to learn. But one thing I do teach is vocabulary so that my students can understand what they're saying. That's extremely important. It's not all about memorization. So I have them write the vocabulary words from the Quran on index cards. And I have them study the index cards. Then I use those index cards in a number of ways. I break them into teams sometimes. And I've done so many different fun things with those vocabulary cards. We've done a Mother May I type of activity. We've done all kinds of activities. We've done a hopscotch activity where if they land on the number 1 or the number 2 or 4, then that's how many cards they have to pick from the pile. And then if they say the word correct, let's say, for example, they pick the word qul, which means say. If they say it correctly, then they get to keep the card. If the word is huwa, and they say it means he, then they get a chance to keep that card. If the word is ahad, and they say it means one, then they get a chance to keep that card. So whoever has the most cards, and we play hopscotch the way it's normally played, and whoever has the most cards is the winner. And that's fun. And I actually play with them. And that's fun for them too, because they get to see their teacher is not a mean old monster. The teacher is human and can have fun too. I can laugh. And of course, charity, a smile is charity. So we should be kind and create a very positive atmosphere. And the children really, really look forward to this every single week. We worked 4 days a week, so every Thursday they were looking forward to the competition, and I would give them a chance to review the vocabulary, and they would review the vocabulary independently and then with a partner, test each other. And they worked hard to help each other, even though they were going to be competing against one another. And this helps your children internalize the information. And once again, I've used this when I taught 4th grade as a homeroom teacher. We had math competitions, and my students really excelled, mashallah. Even my own daughter, who was in my 4th grade class in public school, she was low in math, and I did grouping with her, homogeneous as well as heterogeneous groups of the same ability, with students of the same ability as well as mixed abilities. And to make a long story short, we did competitions every single week with math. And to make a long story short, by the end of the school year, she was on grade level. Without any outside tutoring, it was just the strategies that were used in the classroom. And the students really worked hard when they knew they were going to have a competition the next day. All right, العقاب. All right, من الطبيعي جدا أن يوجد في الصف فئة من الطلبة مشاغبين ولكن تعامل معهم بالحكمة. We're going to have bad students in every class. And maybe I shouldn't use the word bad, but naughty or misbehaved students in the class. So we should use time out. فيجب علينا أن نستعمل time out. I don't know, لا أدري باللغة العربية time out, ولكن time out يعني أن ندع الطالب في مكان بعيد من الطلاب الآخرين. We put the student in a corner, for example, away from other students. And خليهم أن يقرأ مثلا. يقرأ عن أدب مثلا. أو ممكن عندكم أسئلة في الحيطة. وممكن عليهم أن يكتب رسالة إليك يقول أنا الآن عرفت أن هذا كان غلط وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى كذا أو قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كذا. ممكن رسالة صفحة واحدة، أو ممكن هم يكتبون رسالة وينصحون طالب آخر عندهم نفس الخطأ. You could put them in the corner, and I used to have questions to make them think. Take a moment to reflect questions. You could perhaps have them write a letter to you apologizing for the mistake that they've made. Okay, or write a letter to another student advising another student not to do a particular behavior, and they should reference ayats from the Quran or from the Hadith. Okay, you can also take away a privilege. حرمان من الإثابة. All right, in addition to memorization, you can do other activities or have other subjects as well. طبعا عندنا حفظ في فصل القرآن أو في تحفيظ القرآن، ولكن يجب عندنا مواد أخرى مثلا التفسير لكي يفهمون كتاب الله. Tafsir is one of them. And this is especially important if they're non-native speakers, but important also if they're native speakers. مفردات ألفاظ القرآن. Even if they're native speakers, they need to do vocabulary, because sometimes native speakers may not understand what a particular word, especially if they're accustomed to speaking dialect. التجويد. طبعا التجويد مهم جدا. Okay, and also المشاريع العملية. It's good to have projects where they're looking at problems in the community in groups and using ayahs from the Quran and a hadith to propose a solution to these problems. We need to begin to train our students to become problem solvers. We don't need to be a part of the problem. We need to be a part of the solution. And once again, we need to create an environment, a peaceful environment. بيئة الصف يجب أن تكون آمنة. ليس من الممكن أن يتعلم طالب في جو فيه خوف. ويجب المشاريع العملية. ممكن مرة واحد في الشهر. لو عندنا project مشاريع العملية، ويجب الطلاب أن يبحثوا عن حل لمشكلة معينة ويستعملوا آيات من القرآن وأحاديث إن شاء الله تعالى. And this is a recommended schedule for a Quran school. الجدول اليومي لمدرس تحفيظ القرآن من الساعة 9 حتى الساعة 4. So they would have علوم القرآن مثلا من الساعة 9 حتى الساعة 9:30 Quranic scientists، و9:30 حتى الساعة 10 تفسير، الساعة 10 حتى الساعة 10:30 مفردات ألفاظ القرآن، and then 10:30 to 11 o'clock التمارين الرياضية exercise, which is very important. 11 o'clock to 11:45 التجويد. استراحة، هذا مهم جدا. From 11:45 to 12 o'clock تحفيظ القرآن من الساعة 12 حتى الساعة 1، الساعة 1 حتى الساعة 1:30 غداء lunch. 1:30 to 2 o'clock الصلاة, and 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock تحفيظ القرآن again. So once again we have 3 hours for تحفيظ القرآن, and then we have other subjects that will help them apply. مفروض عندهم تفسير وعلوم القرآن عشان تطبيق القرآن. الحفظ فقط ما ينفع، ولكن أهم شيء التطبيق. Okay, we can have other subjects. ممكن عندنا مواد أخرى مثلا فقه والسيرة. And these activities, we can have other subjects such as fiqh and sirah, and perhaps we can have these activities done independently and with a partner. All right, and then we have a recommended schedule if you're a Quran teacher and you're teaching the students for one period out of a day. هذا جدول لمن يدرس القرآن في مدرسة إسلامية. وأنا أقترح بأن يدرسوا القرآن كل يوم لمدة ساعة ونصف، ليس فقط ساعة أو ساعة إلى ربع، ولكن ساعة ونصف، لأن هذا أهم مواد في الفصل مفروض أن يكون. Okay? And so I recommend this should be the most important subject in the school, between Quran and also Islamic studies, and from that we should use that as a base to strengthen our students and to help the teachers in other subjects. So my recommendation is that the teacher begin with tafsir. أو ربع ساعة تفسير أو علوم القرآن. And then بعده مفردات ألفاظ القرآن, vocabulary for 15 minutes, ثم تجويد ربع ساعة, and then memorization lasts for 45 minutes, تحفيظ آخر شيء, فردية أو مع صاحب for 45 minutes. And then weekly, every Friday for example, have the students do presentations, PowerPoint presentations, where they're presenting tafsir of the surah that you've gone over. Let's say week 1 you're doing Surah Al-Ikhlas the whole week. Then at the end of the week they would do a PowerPoint presentation. في نهاية الأسبوع, PowerPoint presentation. The student I'm referring to. And they would have their vocabulary competition as well. مسابقة كمان في نهاية الأسبوع. فآخر يوم يكون مراجعة بس. Student presentations and مسابقات. يا أيها الشاهدون، شارك هذه الفيديو لمدرس القرآن الذي تعلمونه. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى: ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون. Please take the time to share this video with any Quran teachers that you know, and I pray that inshallah this will be beneficial even for you when you are teaching Quran to your child at home. Try to understand your child, try to be patient with your child, try to reward your child. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, translation, let there rise out of you a group of people inviting to all that is good, enjoining al-ma'ruf and forbidding al-munkar. And it is they who are successful. And that's in Surah Ali Imran, verse 104. We have to stop running away from our problems. We, as an ummah, have many problems. نحن عندنا مشاكل كثيرة في أمتنا، فيجب علينا أن نتوجه هذه المشاكل لا نفر منهم. And we have to stop denying our problems. Some of you may think this is exaggerated. If you think it's exaggerated, take the time to visit different Quran schools, and you will see some of what I'm talking about. إذا لديكم أي سؤال عن أسلوب تدريس القرآن الكريم أو الإسلامية اتصل بي وأساعد مدرستك إن شاء الله مجانا. And I ask that you forgive me for any mistakes. أنا آسفة طولت عليكم وأخطأت في اللغة كثيرا. Asifa, I apologize for all of my mistakes, whether it's anything that I've said or mistakes with the language. الدين نصيحة فهذه هي نصيحتي. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا الله واستغفر الله واتوب اليه. May Allah guide us and may He help us to become the best. Allahumma ameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.